Hey guys, so I know I haven't posted a video in forever because, well, life just sort of happened, but I've just finished university and finally got some time to make some videos now. Now, I know what you're probably thinking, oh look, a gaming related list on YouTube, there's just not enough of those around these days. Look, this one doesn't even have gameplay footage. Well, I really do just want to get my opinion out there, as a teaser trailer for Titanfall 2 dropped pretty recently and I was a big fan of the first game, so I thought I'd just share some of my thoughts. Student loans have rendered me kind of penniless, but I am saving up for a proper capture card soon, and I'm sure if you look at some of my older videos you'll see why I need a new one. It's possibly some of the most cringeworthy content I've ever made in my life.
Oh no, not the sneeze.
Also, I've changed my name to Von Games now because things just kind of change. So anyway, let's talk about Titanfall 2. Now, just to give a bit of context, I didn't get Titanfall until almost a year after its release, although I do still play it occasionally today. It's fully up to date, I've got all the DLC and so on. I've put in about 4 days worth of playtime. Yes, I lead such an exciting life. And I have a 2.7 player versus player KD. And that's not me trying to be like, oh look at all my kills or anything like that. It's just to clarify. But any criticisms I give aren't down to me just whining because I keep getting killed and killed over and over again because I can't play the game. So anyway, here's a few things I think should change for Titanfall 2 and a few things I think that shouldn't. Number 1. Weapon progression and customization. Now, I know this isn't a new criticism and Respawn did try to improve upon this problem with some of the updates they released, but one thing that made Titanfall stale for a lot of people was the lack of any sense of progression or reward for the challenges that they completed and the XP that they earned. This, to be honest, I think can be solved pretty simply if they just add a few more guns, a few more grenade types, some more pilot abilities, give the weapons a big variety of attachments, and camo skins, so on and so forth. Now, one important thing to note is that I think Titanfall, for the most part, nailed the balancing of the weapons, most of them, and I say that for a reason which I'll come back to later. They all seem pretty well rounded and not too powerful, not too accurate, just about right really. Not just the weapons in fact, but also the abilities like cloaking and all the little perks we were given on the side. We definitely could do with a lot more to unlock as we progress, but we also don't want too many. Each weapon in Titanfall just felt different enough that they all cater towards different playstyles, unlike other games that just kind of throw in a bunch of guns that all feel and act pretty much the same. Titanfall was obviously a sci-fi, so I feel developers have a great opportunity to get really creative with attachments and like grenades and so on. So some outside box thinking when it comes to weaponry would really help make the game more interesting and stand out over other shooters. There's definitely room for more, but not so much that things get too cluttered or the gameplay becomes unbalanced. One thing to add would be that they should up the level cap from 50, possibly to something like 100, as I hardly ever reach the level cap in games like COD and things like that, but I found it extremely easy to in Titanfall. Upping the level cap would add another level of challenge and also provide a lot more room for well-paced progression, so we're slowly but consistently unlocking more content. Number 2, pilot and Titan customization. This is another big one that isn't exactly revolutionary at this point. As with the weapons, we just need a bit more content in this area. I'd love to be able to give accessories to my pilot, give my Titan new paint jobs and customized emblems. It'd be great actually if Titan customization adopted a similar system to games like Halo or more recently Doom, which allows you to change individual sections of your character, like the left arm, the left leg, torso and so on. More Titan classes as well would be great. We have the 3 types in Titanfall, which again were nicely balanced, but 1 or 2 more couldn't hurt, and again, of course, more Titan weapons and abilities would be a welcome addition. We've seen this as likely with the reveal of a sword in the new teaser trailer, which I'll come back to later, although as I mentioned before, when adding weapons, abilities and chassis types, it's definitely important that the gameplay still remains balanced, and that there isn't so much being added that everything feels the same. Number 3, AI. The AI units in the game, known as grunts or spectres, are a mixed bag for some players I know, but personally I thought they were a great addition to the game and in fact made a refreshing change from other FPS multiplayer games that just solely pitted players against one another. The use of AI made you feel like you were in a larger scale battle, made you feel more powerful as you mowed them down, and it added an extra layer of tension. There was tension as you double checked to make sure a grunt was not in fact a pilot, there was tension when you were checking that a spectre wasn't a disguised pilot, and there was also an element of risk and reward there too. If you wanted some extra points in attrition for instance, you could shoot a bunch of grunts, but if your weapon was unsilenced, that would also cause your position to show up on enemy maps. The AI also added a nice increase in the number of potential challenges available to the player, so generally I feel they're a positive feature to the game and should definitely reappear in Titanfall 2's multiplayer. To be honest, I wouldn't even be against them adding more AI into the game, like different classes and larger squads. It'd really help up the intensity of the battles, and developers could easily add an AI-free game mode for players who prefer to have the player versus player type matches, so I don't feel keeping the AI in would be that much of an issue. This might be expecting too much, but perhaps having the ability to issue commands like follow me or defend this point or whatever to the squads of AI could also help spice things up. Number 4, the smart pistol. For God's sake, please just get rid of this weapon. I hate it so much, just please make it disappear in Titanfall 2. This is the one weapon I feel I didn't quite get right, although I do know a lot of people do enjoy using it. I just feel if you're going to make a game that encourages people to play athletically, like jumping and running around walls and so on, then the weapon should complement that. Weapon effectiveness should be based on speed and reflexes, not sitting watching someone perform some gravity-defying stunts as you casually sit back, lock onto them, shoot them down without even really aiming at them. Just don't bring it back. Number 5, game modes. More game modes are definitely required in Titanfall 2. They added a few after the first game's release, and some were actually quite creative, such as that one that had the floor being covered in electric smoke. The game has a lot of room to be imaginative with its game types, so more types on release rather than months and months down the line when most people have stopped playing the game would be great this time. Thank you, EA. Yes, please let your developers finish the game before you release it for once. Number 6, maps. The majority of maps in Titanfall, in my opinion, were pretty spot on. Large enough to cater to the speed and size of the Titans, but not so large that you couldn't strategically maneuver the playing field as a pilot. I thought the initial maps that came with the game were generally better crafted than those that came with the DLC for the most part, so if they can stick to whatever their formula was for creating those maps, I don't think I'll be upset in Titanfall 2. Avoiding making the maps too large or too small is definitely a necessity, and of course ensuring there's a wide enough variety so they don't become too repetitive is also key. Number 7, single player. I'm so glad that an actual single player campaign has been confirmed for Titanfall 2. I think it's definitely something that the first game could have benefited from, and know that shoddy multiplayer mode with voiceovers does not count. I feel the lore that was hinted at in Titanfall is definitely a world that deserves some exploration, and although I have no idea what direction they'll take with the story, I do really hope it's not just a rip-off of the multiplayer mode, and that they do take it seriously this time, with fully fleshed out characters, innovative missions, and at least an 8-hour playtime. I feel there's not too much to ask for given the first game's complete lack of this mode. Okay, so now I'd just like to move on to some additional thoughts I have. As I mentioned earlier, we did get to see a Titan wielding a sword in the teaser trailer for Titanfall 2, and I think this has the potential to be pretty awesome if it's done correctly. I've always found melee weapons, particularly in first-person games, to be pretty clunky, especially in multiplayer modes, at least when they're not one-hit kills like the sword in Halo, for instance. But obviously it'd be pretty daft to have a sword that could kill a Titan in one hit, so I imagine this won't be the case. However, I'm not a massive fan of the idea of a Titan boosting up to me and clumsily swinging its sword at me over and over and over again until I eventually die. Whatever weapon in my hand not really doing much to defend me. Perhaps all Titans all have swords as a kind of support weapon and can draw them at any time and engage in some kind of duel, maybe something a bit similar to the lightsaber duels that we saw in Star Wars Battlefront, but hopefully a bit less janky and with a sequence of buttons to press rather than just general mashing. The sword definitely needs to have a good balance of risk and reward. It needs to be more rewarding than just going up and punching a Titan, but also more risky. Perhaps it takes a while to swing for a second blow or something like that. I don't know, just don't mess it up. Another thought I had was in regards to the wildlife seen on some of the maps in the first Titanfall, such as the flyers. I think it'd be great if they added more creatures into the game, and I think one was briefly hinted at during the teaser trailer. If they can make them interact with players as well as the AI, perhaps attacking us also, that could add another layer of tension to the game. And finally, I'd like to mention animations. I know it's a minor point, but the execution performed by both Titans and pilots against other players was super fun to carry out. Breaking a guy's neck or literally punching them out of the chassis of their Titan was really rewarding to me. So perhaps adding a few more animations could spice this up further, maybe even have them as things to unlock as you level up through the game. So to summarise my thoughts on Titanfall 2, I think we need more guns, more attachments, more abilities, customization for both pilots and Titans, but not so much that it becomes oversaturated and unbalanced. Keep the AI in the multiplayer games, maybe add more of them if possible. Please get rid of the smart pistol, give us some innovative game modes on release, keep the maps crafted in a similar way to before, make sure the single player campaign isn't done lazily, don't mess up the sword, give us a few more creatures to interact with, and finally a few more animations wouldn't hurt either. Those are just my thoughts anyway. Thanks so much for listening to me prattle on for God knows how long this video is now. And hopefully you agree with some of these points, but if you have anything to add or dispute, feel free to let me know in the comments below. Cheers guys.